confusion, anger, that hollow ache that feels like broken glass under the skin. Blake Shelton knows all of it too well.
I can understand how you guys feel. It's the worst possible feeling. It's confusion, it's anger, it's just an overall brokenness.
For fans, it was supposed to be another night of reassurance, a moment where Blake and Gwen would step out together and remind the world why their story mattered. Instead, what happened left more questions than answers. Blake did the most unexpected thing he could have done. He chose silence. No witty remark, no warm grin, not even the familiar y'all, just absence. Hours later, the industry itself mirrored that silence, shelving his record Backroads and Heartaches until the timing was right.
It is the great day of corn. Woo! Corn in the truck, corn in the field.
It was as though two silences began to argue, his born of pain and pride, theirs of optics and profit. For years, Blake has carried the title of America's country heart. He never pretended to be anything else. Straightforward, funny, unshakable. Fans trusted him because he wore his truth like denim, durable, comfortable, never flashy. But beneath the spotlight, there has always been a cost. The jokes came easier than the heartache. The smile hid more than it revealed. By the time Los Angeles rolled out the red carpet for the 2025 American Music Awards, Blake Shelton, the man who once turned grief into songs that healed millions, was already carrying a weight no stage could carry for him.
That's Gwen Stefani.
You and me used to be together every day together, always revealed.
On paper, the plan seemed simple. Appear with Gwen, silence the rumors, and show the music was louder than the whispers. Reality didn't agree. The expectations were massive because this couple had taught people to believe in second chances. Fans anticipated at least a duet, maybe even just a moment together that said, "We're still here." But when the cameras flashed and questions flew, only Gwen appeared, shimmering in a metallic dress, smiling as if nothing had cracked. The empty space beside her became the headline of the night. Whispers grew legs, and before the first commercial break had aired, the internet had already multiplied theories. The sharpest rumor pointed toward the set list. Insiders claimed there were last-minute lyric changes in a song Blake and Gwen were supposed to share. Words Blake allegedly read too late, words he couldn't sing without betraying his truth.
I just got a new truck. We're both trying to figure out the stereo. So what are you doing? You go, well, I was trying to find Kiss FM to see if I could hear my new song on there.
Yep.
And I pushed one button because I don't know what to do either, and Kiss FM came on, and your song was already playing.
For a man whose reputation is built on honesty, that was more than a creative dispute. Country music thrives on the idea that what you hear in a song is the same story you'd hear if the singer sat 2 stools down with a beer in hand. If the lyrics became something he couldn't stand behind, the music stopped being confession and started being costume. And so Blake did the unthinkable. He didn't argue. He didn't spin the story. He simply stepped away. Then came the moment that fueled the wildfire of speculation. Gwen took the stage and sang the line, "No apology required." It was sharp, defiant, and impossible not to read as a message. The internet, always eager to connect dots, saw a split screen that night. Gwen glowing under the lights, Blake hidden in silence. What was once a power couple looked in an instant like 2 separate artists walking opposite roads. When Blake finally broke that silence, it was in the only way a man like him knows how, briefly, sparingly. He said that sometimes silence says more than a song. It wasn't an attack, it wasn't even a defense, it was a boundary. But boundaries in the world of celebrity only make the noise louder. Was it confirmation of a fight, a protection of something private, or simply an attempt to buy time? For Blake, silence was the last form of control he had left. Let the storm pass without me, his actions seemed to say. But then came a deeper wound. His label, calculating timing and gossip, delayed the album he had poured himself into after stepping away from The Voice. On paper, it was a marketing move. For Blake, it was a theft. The only safe space he had left suddenly closed off. Friends whispered that it rattled him more than he expected, like someone had locked the last open door. Because for Blake Shelton, music has always been more than a career. It's been survival.
But now this is it for you on The Voice. You're almost done with The Voice, right?
Kelly finally got me fired. I wanted to announce that here on the show. Kelly Clarkson actually got me fired.
Is that true? Kelly had you ousted?
Yeah, NBC stands for nothing but Clarkson. I found because she's not on every late night show. She's got the daytime show.
She has displaced
She's going to have one of these soon.
She'll probably have this one.
Probably so, yeah.
I better get a bulldozer. Does Kelly have a bulldozer?
She didn't make it in country music. She's a pop star.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
She's a pop star, so she went.
From his early days in Ada, Oklahoma, when a guitar at 12 felt more like a lifeline than an instrument, to the teenage years when songwriting became the only way to say what words couldn't, Blake learned how to turn ache into melody, and that lesson came at a devastating cost. In 1990, he lost his older brother Richie in a car accident at just 24. That loss left a scar that never closed, teaching him the language of grief that would shape his music forever. Even when Richie's name wasn't in the lyrics, you could hear him in the Heartbreakers Blake sang. It became the engine of his career, turning personal pain into something millions could sing along to when their own words failed. Blake's journey to the spotlight wasn't paved with luck. It was carved out with stubborn grit. At 17, he packed his dreams and set his eyes on Nashville, determined to find a place in a town that eats talent alive. The industry wasn't kind at first. His intended debut single, I Wanna Talk About Me, was handed off to Toby Keith, who turned it into a #1 hit. For many, that would have been the breaking point. But Blake didn't fold. He stayed, wrote, played, and proved impossible to dismiss. Every rejection was followed by a song that forced people to stop and listen. Then in 2001, Austin arrived like a thunderstorm. 5 weeks at #1, a voice that felt like your neighbor and your favorite memory all at once. Fans didn't care whether critics labeled him alt-country or mainstream. They just kept calling radio stations and asking to hear it again. The climb wasn't smooth, but each challenge hardened him into the artist fans came to trust. By 2011, Red River Blue exploded onto the charts, carried by Honeybee, God Gave Me You, and a string of hits that turned him into a mainstay on country radio. He wasn't just a star anymore. He was dependable. Buy a ticket to a Blake Shelton show, and you knew you'd leave with laughter and a song that stayed with you on the ride home. Awards followed, but more than trophies, he built something rarer: loyalty. Fans knew he wouldn't fake it. Every laugh, every lyric, every shrug carried the same honesty. Then came The Voice, and with it, a new chapter. America met Blake not just as a singer, but as a coach, the cowboy who could roast contestants and then reassure them in the same breath. He made small-town kids feel like their voices mattered, and big city kids believe in small towns. Week after week, his wit and warmth turned him into a household name far beyond country music. And television brought him something even more unexpected: Gwen Stefani. On paper, they were opposites. On screen, they made perfect sense. Two people who had been broken in public found something healing in each other's presence. Their duets didn't play like fairy tales. They felt like two friends building something steady, one piece at a time. For years, the world rooted for them. They laughed, they sang, and for a while, it seemed like love had outrun the odds. Two different genres, two different coasts, united under one roof. To fans, they weren't just a couple. They were proof that love could survive the spotlight. But what the public didn't see was how heavy love can become when it's lived under constant surveillance. Careers pulled them in opposite directions. Gwen's world of reinvention, pop tours, and fashion lines ran on a different clock than Blake's country roots, his need for slower rhythms and homegrown spaces. They balanced it until the balance broke. By 2025, those cracks had become too visible to ignore. When Blake ended his marriage to Miranda Lambert back in 2015, the pain at least had a clear shape. Heartbreak, betrayal, the end of a chapter. He poured that raw ache into If I'm Honest, and fans stitched themselves up alongside him. But this time the storm was different. It wasn't just love falling apart. It was also the one thing that had always been his refuge: music being placed out of reach, his record shelved, his voice sidelined. For Blake Shelton, losing love was devastating, but losing his ability to sing through it, having that outlet locked away, was something deeper. It rattled him in ways no one expected. His silence then wasn't just about Gwen. It was about reclaiming something bigger, refusing to perform his own pain for headlines, refusing to fake unity on a red carpet just to soothe speculation. For Blake, silence became a form of survival. And when he finally reemerged, people who really knew him saw the signs. The jokes came slower. His eyes did more work than his words. The man who once disarmed rooms with a shrug now carried himself like someone counting each breath carefully. The truth is, Blake has always lived between resilience and loss. From the scar of losing his brother to clawing his way through Nashville's doubts to rebuilding after divorce, he's made a career out of turning personal bruises into universal songs. That's why this silence feels different. Fans sense it. It isn't retreat, it's refusal. A refusal to let gossip dictate his art, a refusal to turn a breakup into a performance. He isn't auditioning for his own life. He's guarding what matters most. And while headlines wait for spectacle, those closest to him expect something quieter. Fence posts, kitchen tables, Nashville co-writes in rooms where the coffee is too strong and the truths run even stronger. Because if Blake Shelton's history has taught us anything, it's that he always finds his way back through music. From Austin to God's country, from grief to love, his songs have been both a confession and a compass. And though the world hears only silence now, the truth is simple. He's writing the next chapter, even if no one else can hear it yet. Blake Shelton has always been more than the headlines that try to pin him down. To understand where he stands now, you have to look at the full arc of his story. A life shaped by loss, anchored by music, and challenged by love lived under a microscope. Every album in his catalog tells that story in layers, like rings in a tree. Austin was the wide-eyed hope of a young man with a guitar and nothing to lose. The mid-2000s gave us the playful smirk of some beach and the aching honesty of ballads that stopped people in their tracks. Red River Blue carried the glow of newfound confidence, a honeymoon aftertaste woven into its melodies. Then came the harder chapters. After his split from Miranda, If I'm Honest became both wound and bandaged, proof that pain could be written into something millions would carry with them. Even in the pandemic years, when stages went dark, Fully Loaded, God's Country showed he could still strike a chord that cut across distance and silence. The constant thread has always been confession. When Blake sings from the bruise, audiences don't reach for their phones. They lean in. That's why his recent silence feels louder than any song. For a man who is always healed by singing, stepping away isn't weakness, it's defiance. A choice not to let his most personal struggles be turned into spectacle. Some saw his absence as retreat. But to those who truly know Blake Shelton's story, it looks more like reclamation, a refusal to wear his heartbreak as a costume for the cameras. So what does tomorrow look like for him? Don't expect the easy answers. He's not likely to hold a press conference or stage a grand reveal. Instead, expect something simpler, truer to the man raised on Oklahoma fields. Fence posts, tractors, maybe a fishing trip or two. Time with family, with close friends who don't ask for explanations. And eventually songs, because that's how he has always found his way back. In quiet Nashville rooms with strong coffee and stronger truths, the verses will return, shaped by the same honesty that's carried him through every storm. The industry may calculate timing, gossip may fuel speculation, but music has never been about optics for Blake. It's been about survival, about taking pain and building something out of it that others can carry too. That's why, no matter how heavy this chapter feels, there's reason to believe the next one will hold the music only he can write. His silence isn't the end of his story. It's the pause before another song that will remind everyone why his voice has always mattered. Because in the end, Blake Shelton doesn't need to argue, explain, or even appear. All he has ever needed is a melody, a lyric, and the courage to sing from the truth. And when he does, the world will listen, not to the rumors, not to the headlines, but to the man who has always found a way to turn brokenness into something worth holding on to.